Despised today, exalted tomorrow. How God turns the tables in your favor. Have you ever felt forgotten by the very people who were supposed to support you? Have you ever been despised by the ones you loved the most, ignored by leaders, rejected in relationships, or even humiliated publicly by those who should have protected you? Maybe you're carrying invisible scars, wounds left by harsh words, slammed doors, and looks that made you feel small. But what you need to know and remember right now is this: you may have been forgotten by people, but you have never been ignored by God. His silence is not absence, it's strategy. And when He decides to lift you up, no one can stand in the way. Stay with me until the very end of this video, because what you're about to hear might just be the turning point in your story. God is about to turn the tables in your favor, and everything that once hurt you will become your testimony. Today you may be at the bottom, but that bottom is the fertile soil where God plants those He intends to raise. You may have been forgotten by people, but you have never been ignored by God. And when He decides to exalt you, no one can stop Him. Maybe you've walked through life carrying wounds that no one sees. Maybe you were rejected by the very people who were supposed to be your support system: family, spiritual leaders, close friends. You gave your heart, your effort, your loyalty, and what you got in return was silence, betrayal, or mockery. But this is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of God's story through you. The deepest pain is the one that stays silent, the one you carry alone while pretending everything is fine. But on the inside, you're breaking. You smile in public, but cry in private. You walk into church, your workplace, or family gatherings and feel like you don't belong, as if your presence doesn't matter, as if nothing changes when you're there. This kind of pain doesn't scream, it whispers and it isolates. And the hardest part? No one notices. Or worse, they notice, and they still walk away. What many people don't understand is that rejection isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a conversation that ends the moment you walk in. A meeting you weren't invited to. A celebration that happened without you. It's when your name isn't mentioned in their prayers, or if it is, it's with judgment, not with love. Maybe you felt that within your own family, as if you were the disappointment. Or maybe in church, where you should have found refuge, you found neglect. Maybe you were faithful at work, but someone else received the recognition. These moments aren't random. They're wounds, and they matter. But here's something few people realize. God saw it all. Every tear, every insult, every door slammed in your face. He watched, not with indifference, but with purpose. Because sometimes, rejection isn't a curse. It's preparation. It's divine setup. God allows rejection to bring redirection. He lets people walk away so that you'll finally look up. Because He doesn't want to share your loyalty. He wants your heart fully aligned with His purpose. And sometimes He allows others to break your heart so that He can rebuild it stronger. There is something sacred about being hidden. Yes, it may feel like isolation, but it is not punishment. It's preparation. Before David faced Goliath, he faced lions and bears in a field where no one was watching. Before Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he was thrown into a pit and left in a prison, forgotten. Before Jesus walked out of the tomb, he was mocked, tortured, and crucified by the very people He came to save. Rejection came before resurrection. Silence came before the miracle. Darkness came before the light. And you? Where are you right now? In the forgotten field like David? In the abandoned pit like Joseph? Or in the emotional tomb where your hopes were buried? God knows every stage. And in all of them, He is preparing something. Because God's exaltation is never accidental. It is the result of a process. A process that heals, strengthens, and teaches. The same God who saw you being despised is the God who has already marked the day when you will be honored. And when that day comes, those who rejected you will have no choice but to witness what God is doing in your life. The problem is, we want to be exalted without being shaped. We want the stage but not the process. We want the crown but avoid the cross. But God doesn't work like that. He hides us. He breaks us. He refines us. Because His exaltation is not about feeding the ego, it's about fulfilling purpose. And that purpose will always go beyond you. It involves lives, generations, destinies. And that's why the process hurts. Because God is preparing you to carry something bigger than yourself. Something that will impact people you haven't even met yet. Remember Hannah? The woman who wept bitterly because she had no children? Ridiculed by Peninnah, humiliated in front of everyone. But she went to the temple. She wept. She prayed. She made a vow to God. And God heard her. She conceived Samuel. Not just a child, but a prophet, a leader, a legacy for an entire generation. God's exaltation wasn't just about giving Hannah a son. It was about making her a vessel of historical transformation. When God exalts you, He doesn't just honor you, He uses you to impact others. And maybe today, as you listen to this, you feel like Hannah before the miracle. Full of shame, invisible, crying with no strength left. Maybe you feel like David, tending sheep while your brothers are off fighting battles. But when God sends for you, no one can stop it. Even if they tried to overlook you, hide you, manipulate the spotlight, God sees. God hears. God moves. He doesn't need anyone's permission to lift you up. When His time comes, doors open, hearts turn, and even those who doubted will have to admit, it was God. Those who humiliated you, they won't have a choice but to watch what God does with your life. Just like Joseph's brothers had to bow before him. Just like those who mocked Jesus saw Him rise in glory. God rewrites stories. He flips the script. And He does it in such an unexpected way that it confounds the wise. He chooses the despised to shame the strong. He lifts the needy from the dust and seats them with princes. Not because you deserve it, but because He decided to love you, raise you, and use you. So don't give up now. Don't interrupt the process. You may be in the season of pain, but the glory is coming. You may be in the season of rejection, but your exaltation has already been written in heaven. And when God decides to turn the tables, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop His move. Just remain, trust, cry if you need to, but don't stop. Because while you suffer in silence, heaven is moving things in your favor. And when the appointed time comes, you will understand it was all worth it. Because the same God who was with Joseph in the pit was with him in the palace. The same God who saw David alone with the sheep saw him being anointed as king. The same God who watched you being rejected is preparing the exact moment of your elevation. Nothing that happened to you was in vain. Everything carries an eternal purpose. Even your silent tears carry seeds of future glory. God is weaving in the background of your life a robe of honor. And when that robe is revealed, all will see. It was He who clothed you. And this is where the true testimony begins. Because when God decides to exalt you, there is no resume that can explain it, no logic that can justify it, no status that can uphold it. His favor is unquestionable. He places you in positions where most would say, but he's not qualified. And that's exactly what glorifies His name, the fact that it wasn't you. It was His hands. That confounds the wise. It unsettles the proud. But it heals those who were also rejected. Your story becomes a lighthouse to those still in the dark, an anchor to those who are sinking. The glory that will come upon you is not just a reward, it's a place of influence. And from that place of influence, God will speak through you. There are moments when everything seems to be against us, when circumstances don't make sense, and the waiting becomes too long. It was like that with Esther, a young Jewish woman, orphaned, raised by a cousin, hidden in a foreign land. In the eyes of the world, she was just one among many. But in God's eyes, she was a key to the deliverance of an entire nation. Esther did not seek the spotlight. She was brought to the palace without ambition, but with grace. God positioned her in silence so that, at the right time, she could speak on behalf of a people. Esther was despised before she was exalted. She went through a silent process of preparation, from anonymity to the crown. And when the time came, God turned the tables in her favor. She stepped into the presence of the king, risking her own life, and found favor. What could have been the end became the beginning of a new decree. The 3-day fast became victory. The death sentence became deliverance. The shame of the people became honor. Because when God decides to act, even the scepter bows. Authority shifts hands. and those who plotted your downfall watched their own plans turn against them. Esther is the portrait of how God exalts the humble. She had no title, but she had purpose. She had no influence, but she had intercession. She used her pain as a cry, her position as a bridge, and her faith as a weapon. The result? People saved, an enemy defeated, a name written in history, and what began as rejection ended in redemption. That is the signature of God. He takes the unlikely, the forgotten, the discarded, and turns them into the answer. And if today you feel like Esther, hidden, unsure of your place in the world, know this: God is positioning you. There is purpose behind the silence. There is reason behind the waiting. And when the time comes, you won't have to force anything. The door will open. Favor will find you. The king will extend the scepter. And everything that was against you will be reversed. Because the end of the story is not defeat, it's victory. It's not abandonment, it's promotion. It's not destruction, it's salvation. God always wins.